me. I don't quite know where this is going to go, but I'm going to start off talking about the kettle. Why was it called the Singing Kettle? Well, we lived in a place called King's Kettle in Fife. And so we were a bit reticent to adopt that name, but we had a company called Kettle Records. And so we called the first album The Singing Kettle. And then we had changes of mind on that. We came up with, we were going to call ourselves Kippers and Custard at one time. Not a very good name. We came up with Hopscotch, which I think would have worked. But somebody else had the names Hopscotch and wrote to us in very threatening terms. So we just decided to go back to the Singing Kettle. So I'm going to show you how the show worked. There will be people here who have never ever seen it or have never experienced it. So what I've got here is a special kettle, especially for tonight. I just ran this up earlier. It's a homemade kettle. And inside every kettle, there was always a clue for a song. But, well, let me tell you how that came about. We had a gig for the BBC on a show called Joe & Co. And Scylla said, well, if this is going to work, and this is going to be the gateway to a career of any sort, we have to stand out. Otherwise, we're just the music in the corner. So she had the idea that we get some kettles in the show. The BBC were coming to see us on Wednesday. I started borrowing and painting kettles on Monday. On Wednesday morning, they were still wet. And on the way to the gig, I said, how's this going to work? Who's already, so we just put them in the kettle and we kid on, it can't open. And we get the kids to shout the rhyme and open the lid. I said, like, what kind of rhyme? She said, well, it could be spout, handle, lid of metal, what's inside the singing kettle. I said, that sounds pretty good. And it stuck and we've done it. Somebody did the calculations when we retired. In our career, we said it 4,600 times. So I would invite you this evening to make it 4,601 and join me and we'll do the rhyme together. Spout, handle, lid of metal, what's inside the singing kettle? Good start. This is it. Here we go. It's spout, handle, lid of metal, what's inside the singing kettle? Go! And always there's a clue inside, and here's the first clue. Can you see? It's a ladle. So this is a clue for a song called Aiken Drum, all about the man in the moon from Scotland who played upon a ladle. Now, during this song, I'm going to sing it for you. You can play the ladle like that. You can play it like this. You can bang it like a drum, or you can just sing along. I'd prefer the latter. And I need your input. We're going to make up Aiken Drum. And the wonderful thing about this song is that it's never, ever the same. I've done it thousands and thousands of times, and every single time it's been different. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum, and he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his hair was made of spaghetti, spaghetti, spaghetti. His hair was made of spaghetti, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. This is where I need your help. Unmute everybody. His eyes were made of somebody.
Potatoes.
Eggs. Okay. I think that was a mime of take eggs. Eggs, eggs, eggs. His eyes were made of eggs, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his nose was made of, shout out.
Sausages.
Sausages, sausages, sausages. His nose was made of sausages, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his ears were made of
Cabbages.
Mashed potato, mashed potato, mashed potato. His ears were made of mashed potato, and his name was Aiken Rum. And his mouth was made of
Fish. Fish.
fish. I've got you, Christos. Well done. His mouth was made of Chris, and his name was Aiken Rum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Rum. And his arms were made of
Rubber.
You think I'm going to eat rubber? Then it'd be daft. His arms are made of
Soup.
chips. Okay, chips, chips. His arms are made of chips, and his name was Aiken Rum, and his legs were made of
Jelly.
jelly, jelly, jelly. His legs were made of jelly, and his name was Aiken Rum, and he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Rum. Then along came Mr. Greedy Guts. Mr. Greedy Guts. Mr. Greedy Guts. Along came Mr. Greedy Guts, and he ate up Aiken Rum. Sad. Can you remember this? Because I can't. He ate up all the jelly, the jelly. He ate up all the jelly, and he ate up Aiken Rum, and he ate up all the chips. Yeah, the chips. He ate up all the chips, and he ate up Aiken Rum, and he ate up all the fish. Well done. The fish. He ate up all the fish, and he ate up Aiken Rum, and he ate up all the mashed potato. He ate up all the mashed potato, and he ate up Aiken Rum, and he ate up all the sausages. He ate up all the sausages, and he ate up Aiken Rum, and he ate up all the
Spaghetti. Spaghetti.
Eggs. Yeah, eggs. The eggs. He ate up all the eggs, and he ate up Aiken Rum. Here comes the spaghetti, and he ate up all the spaghetti. Spaghetti. He ate up all the spaghetti, and he ate up Aiken Rum. And he even ate the ladle. He even ate the ladle, and he ate up Aiken Rum. Okay, everybody, let's take this one home. Clap your hands. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon. Was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Rum. Yes, he played upon a ladle. He played upon a ladle. But finish now, and his name was Aiken Rum.
Yay!
Thank you.
Right, Artie, I'm just going to mute everyone just now, and you can come back to us in 1 second. Let me just unmute you.
Okay.
There you go. Right. Everyone hear Artie okay?
Now, that song I did at school, Aiken Drum, but in it, I think his hat was made of cream cheese, his coat was made of roast beef, and his breeches were made of haggis bags. And I didn't really relate to it in any way. It was on a trip to America. We were one of the first groups, the folkies, to go to America back in the late 70s. And it was quite a life-changing experience, to be quite honest. The first gig we did was at Southern Massachusetts University at a festival called the Eisteddfod. And we took the place by storm. We had no idea the enthusiasm the Americans would have for what we were doing. We got a standing ovation for the first number, which we thought there was something wrong. We thought there was a fire alarm. We thought the place was being evacuated, but it was just a standing ovation. And we came off stage and we got 3 offers of record contracts. Now, this wasn't for kids stuff. This was adult songs, folk songs. And so we got a record deal on that very first gig, and so we landed up going back and forward to America a lot during the 70s. And I think it was the second or third trip, we heard people singing Aiken Drum just as I did it there, getting the audience to input. And I thought, that's great. It's a unique experience. It really does bring the song alive in some way. It gets people to really think on their feet and come up with something. So that kind of filed away, but didn't have to file away too long, because at the end of that tour, we had a week doing a gig in Bermuda. And quite honestly, I loved Bermuda. The gig was great, but after a couple of days, it got just slightly tedious, and it was too hot for me, to be quite honest. And one of the teachers there said, would you guys come and play in the school? So we said, yeah, let's go and do a song for the primary school kids. So the two of us sat down and we took out our virtual Kettle phones and popped them on. And we plugged them into our brains and thought, what songs could we possibly do for kids? Well, Scylla had hundreds, literally, because, well, for example, she had recorded our very first radio program at 9 years old down at Queen Margaret Drive here for a man called Charles Parker, who was a renowned broadcaster. She did skipping rhymes, so she had a whole stack of skipping rhymes. I knew a few. I knew Ali Bally Bee, sitting on your mommy's knee. Of course, we all knew the big ship sails through the Illy-Alley-O, the Illy-Alley-O. And rhymes too. We thought it'd be nice to put some rhymes on. So Scylla had, I went to the Pictures Tomorrow and I got a front seat at the back. I said to the woman behind me, I can't see over your hat. She gave me some whole broken biscuits. I ate them and gave her them back. I fell from the stalls to the balcony and broke my front bone at the back. And I knew, my mum used to go, it was imagine you're a railway porter and you're at the station and you shout out, here you are for where you're going, all you in there for here, come out. So we decided to combine all these at this gig we were going to do. And so our first concert for kids was at the Saltus Cavendish School in Bermuda in October 1979. After the show, the guy, Rod Meredith, the head teacher, I don't know why I remember his name, but Rod Meredith came up and said, you guys have obviously done that before. That was brilliant. And we went, no, we've never ever done a show for kids before. He says, you have? I said, no. He said, well, you know, there's a career there if you fancy it. And we said, nah, we're folk singers, we don't want to do that. So that would be a nice time to just stop for a second. And if you've got any questions, I'll take them just for a couple of minutes and then we'll move on to the next part.
Yeah, so we do have a question and it is from, hang on, Tom, I'm just going to unmute you.
On you go.
Right, Tom, all yours.
Well, Artie, now that M&D's isn't there anymore, would you consider a Singing Kettle theme park? And if you had a Singing Kettle theme park, what roller coasters would you have?
I'll definitely have the big ship sail through the Illy-Alley-O. We did get offered this. There was a place in Edinburgh called Mario's or something like that, an Italian name.
Little Marco's.
Little Marco's.
Marco, yeah, I've been at it. Yeah.
And Marco wanted us to have a Singing Kettle section, but he kind of gave the game away. Once we sat down, we went for a coffee or something, and he gave the game away because he said, oh, that's a great gig you've got, a great job you have, because you only have to get people along at the weekends or whenever it suits them. he said, I've got to get people to come along on a Tuesday morning. And by and large, that's a tricky job. At the weekend, it's easy to fill a kid's facility, but on a Tuesday, nah. So I just thought, why are you underselling the Tuesdays, mate? Because I don't think I want to do this. And so we walked away from that deal. And no, a theme park would have been a hell of a lot of work, and with a health and safety nightmare. I don't sleep too well anyway, Tom. So no.
Yeah,
Thanks
but
for the invite.
for a laugh though, Artie, if you were to have a fantasy Singing Kettle theme park, what roller coasters would you have based on Singing Kettle songs?
You're getting put on the spot now here, Artie. Come on now.
Yeah, wait a minute. I could have, yes, I've got a song called In My Wee Red Tractor, I drive up and down, drive up and down, drive up and down. In my wee red tractor, I drive up and down, and the great big wheels go round and round and round. With a kind of roller coaster of tractors work, it would be quite unique.
I think you could have a boa constrictor roller coaster.
What happens in that one?
Well, you get eaten by it.
Yes, good one. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Artie? Let's see. Now, bear in mind it's, I'll tell you what, I'll just unmute you all, because normally I would sort of say you're all unmuted. Normally I would sort of say you use the chat function to do it. Artie,
Yes.
I have a question.
Fire away.
Actually, what do you think was the golden era for the Singing Kettle?
I would imagine the 90s here in Scotland. We had the second BBC show we did here. It was in 1990, and I'm just about to tell you in the next section how things went through the roof for us very, very quickly.
Oh well, maybe we should just move on to that then.
If that's okay, I'll do that.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to mute everyone, and then I'll unmute you so we can hear that story.
So, picking up.
Oh, 1 second. 1 second.
How's that?
That's you, Artie. Right, on you go.
Okay. Just to backtrack, first concert in Bermuda, 1979. And we came back and still determined not to do anything for children, but it was still smoking away there in the background. And there was a man called Stuart Anderson who we had seen on the telly. He was, his wee son eventually became an Andy Stewart impersonator and was quite famous. But he himself was a really great accordion player and was on things like Thingamajig. Now, a lot of people, nobody there, I think, will have, Rob, you'll know about Thingamajig, but maybe Jackie, but I don't think anybody else would.
I do.
John, aren't you fortunate? And we were on that and we met Stuart Anderson. But what I was saying, that one day we came back from the shops and there was a Mercedes outside our wee flat in Kingskettle. And then we went round to our door and here was Stuart Anderson standing at the door, and we were surprised to see somebody off the telly at our door. So he came in for a cup of tea and we got on great with him, and he said, if there's anything you ever want to do, then I'd love to play along with you guys. You know, I've just moved to the area looking to make some friends and be delighted to play on anything you want. So he said, we're thinking about doing a kids album. And he said, okay, when? I said, next week. So we just worked hard, put together a bunch of songs. And the idea was we would just go over with Stuart and take one day in the studio. It wouldn't cost us too much and we'd bring it out. So we did that, but we kind of got the idea that this was better than we thought it was going to be. And so we brought in a whole lot of other musicians and put a little more work into it. And it went ballistic. When we brought it out, it sold more in the first month than anything else we had ever made before, the whole lot combined, including stuff for national labels here in Britain and in America. The Singing Kettle outsold everything immediately. So we still resisted the idea of doing a show for kids. It was just a way for us to make extra money on the road selling kids' albums to our punters. So the next part of the story is that I clipped I know we went up to Inverness to do a couple of shows, and I came back and I thought, if we're going to do some kids shows, it'd be nice to have a musician with us. And we clipped an advert out of the Scotsman, and it was on my board, I don't know, for a couple of months. And I thought, I must phone this guy. And his name was Gary. And eventually I got through to him, and he said he would come through the next day. So Gary appeared at Ladybank Station the next day, and he looked a wee bit like this. So there's Gary, a very, very friendly and cheerful guy. And we sat down and played some music for half an hour. And it was obvious that this guy could learn anything at a rate that I'd never seen before. And we thought, well, listen, we're playing a gig to open Dalkeith Library, wasn't it? Dalkeith Library. And so he said he would come and play with us, but we had to arrange a fee first, of course. So I said to him, a tenner for the gig? Tenner is no good. 15? No. Will you settle for 20? Okay. He said he would play the gig for 20 quid. That meant we got somebody who could play the piano, play the trombone, and the accordion all in one. And from that day on, we did every single gig together except two, when his wife was giving birth. So it was a long-lasting and very lucky find to find a magician indeed, a musician magician like Gary.
We've got a question, actually, Artie, if you're happy to take one.
You obviously don't pause when you're doing this, or somebody just jumps in right away.
No. It's people are, the chat here, and we've got a lot of Kettle fans coming in. Are you happy to take a question, or
of course.
Or it's up to you.
Yeah, fire away.
Okay, so we've got let me just do that. It's Rab Noakes.
There he is. Hi, Rab.
Yeah, Rab, you've got a question.
Hi, I know you were building up. Hi there. You were building up to the big successes when the thing was at its height and demand was huge. Did you ever think of like creating a franchise or something so you could have had licensed people playing Singing Kettle in various parts of the world at the same time?
Yeah, we definitely did, and I'm going to talk about that in a wee while. But it was very much on the cards to do that. But we love doing the Singing Kettle anyway. So really, actually, to tell you the truth, Rob, when we went places, people couldn't believe that we were the real ones. And they would say, "Are you the real Singing Kettle?" We said, "Of course we are. What do you think?" They expected us to be franchisees. And I suppose the idea we considered, but how many gigs do you need? We had enough gigs. You're not going to. Being an administrator really didn't appeal to me. I like to make the music. I like to do the show. I loved all the performing, but organizing stuff in the background, I took on people to do that because I wasn't very good at it and I didn't like it at all. Rob here, by the way, folks, started school with me on the same day.
Right. Okay.
Some time ago.
something.
In 1952.
We're both Cooper boys.
Yeah, not that yet, not that long ago.
No.
Right, okay. Right, Artie, what's next? What's happening?
Yeah, what I was going to do was a song that we worked up with Gary and lead on from there. We had a concert in Princess Square in 1989. I thought the place hadn't been open too long, and we were right at the bottom. And I'll never forget, there's a picture in the Glasgow Herald at the time of us right down here, and every single balcony was absolutely packed. And even people on the escalators going up at every angle were peering over at us. And it was absolutely amazing. And I can remember particularly singing this song. So I'm going to do it for you then.
Okay, 1 second. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to mute everyone. And then I'm going to unmute you. Right, Artie, you need to do your thing again.
What I was saying was that when I do this song for kids, I usually say, this is a song about a boy who loves bananas. He can't get enough bananas. He finishes a banana and he just does his magic blow like that, and another banana appears. This happens all day. Gets a banana, blows in it, and another banana appears. All day, another banana. Until by the end of the day, he realizes he has 2 bananas. But the next day is completely different. And that's what I'm going to tell you about. He couldn't find a banana anywhere. And the song's called Mama, Would You Buy Me a Banana? And I like this because it's a kid who is very aggrieved, but eventually gets his own back. So it's a nice story. Mama, would you buy me a banana? And I get to be the boy and the mummy in this. I'm going to take my earphones off and be the boy and the mummy. So here we go. I need these on. Mama, would you buy me a, buy me a, buy me a, Mama, would you buy me a banana? Buy you a, buy you a, yes, my dear, I'll buy you a banana. Mama, would you peel the skin, peel the skin, peel the skin? Mama, would you peel the skin of my banana? Yes, my dear, I'll peel the skin, peel the skin, peel the skin. Yes, my dear, I'll peel the skin of your banana. Mama, would you like a bite, like a bite, like a bite? Mama, would you like a bite of my banana? Yes, my dear, I'd like a bite, like a bite, like a bite. Yes, my dear, I'd like a bite of your banana. Mama, you took too much, you took too much, you took too much. Mama, you took too much of my banana. No, my dear, it was just one bite, just one bite, just one bite. No, my dear, it was just one bite I took of your banana. But Mama, there's none for me, none for me, none for me. But Mama, there's none for me. You ate all my banana. No, my dear, I left the skin, left the skin, left the skin. No, my dear, I left the skin of your banana. Mama, would you buy me a, buy me a, buy me a? Mama, would you buy me a banana? But you didn't eat the other one, the other one, the other one. You didn't eat the other one, so you'll get no more banana. Mama, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts. Mama, you're a greedy guts, you ate all my banana. Mama, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts. Mama, you're a greedy guts. Yes, Mama, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts, you're a greedy guts. Mama, you're a greedy guts. You ate all my banana. So what happened after that was this guy, David Martin, came up after the gig, and it was a classic. He had a card and he said, "Hello, I'm from the BBC. I'd like you to make a series for us. Would you call me on Monday?" So I played Hard to Get, and I waited till 10 o'clock and phoned him then. And so then we became the Singing Kettle on TV. And it made a huge, huge difference. First of all, I can remember going into shops in Glasgow and people talking to you like they had known you all your life. And of course, they'd just seen you on the telly, and that takes you aback at first. But from a business point of view, it was amazing. Because of telly, we went in 2 years from playing the Byre Theatre in St Andrews. It's a small place that holds about 180 people. Tom, you played there many years ago, I think. It holds about 180 people. We sold it out 32 times, and we thought we were doing well. That's about 5,000 people. But because of telly, fast forward 2 years, and we did the concert hall in Glasgow and sold 70,000 seats. So we went from 5,000 in the Byre without telly to 70,000 at the concert hall. Now, where am I? Yeah, let me move on.
Oh, who's that?
It's the BBC.
Hello. Hello. Who's that? The Royal Shakespeare Theatre. Aye, right, okay. Aye. Is that you, Phil Cunningham? Well, you've never heard of Phil Cunningham? Ah, Graham Sawyer. Uh-huh. You want us to play it at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford? Well, it was true. And we went away down to Stratford to play. And, you know, talking about moments in our career which were life-changing, and it was amazing. We went to Stratford. We weren't theatre people, and these people down there were just so into it. It was unbelievable. We were able to go to rehearsals. We met lots and lots of other actors, and we stayed for a week. And Graham Sawyer turned out to be just a great guy, and talked us through what we needed to know, and introduced us to the lighting and sound people at the RSC. And they said, "Okay, can we see the running order? Have you got a script?" And we said, "No, we don't have scripts. We just kind of do it." They said, "Well, could you talk me through it then?" And the great thing about it was that the lighting guy in particular, they're the best in the country, but they don't ever get a chance to do what they particularly want to do themselves. So he sat down a couple of nights and came up with some ideas. And so the show on the Saturday was just absolutely amazing from a technical point of view. We had a big parasol that they lit from the front and the back. They did chases on the kettles. There was a song called The Train to Glasgow that they brought in a massive smoke machine to create almost like the train was coming through the theatre, a sound effect for the train with a sort of shutter effect of carriages, just to create an atmosphere that we'd never really seen before. It was mind-blowing, and I just loved all the people there. And I particularly remember going to the pub afterwards. It's called the Dirty Duck. It's opposite the stage door in Stratford. And we had a pint with the guys there, and they said, you know, you should be carrying a set with you. You should really think about taking a set. So we did that. We got back to Scotland and thought, right, let's try and find a set. We went to the Pitlochry Theatre. A girl there designed a set, and our life had changed just with that one trip to the RSC. Any questions now?
Are there any questions for Artie just now? There's nothing coming in. Oh, hang on. Yes, hang on. There's Anna coming in. Right, hang on, Anna. Like,
thank you.
Just hold on, the new woman. We'll get. Let me click on the button. No, Anna, you've got to unmute your audio. So we're just waiting on Anna to unmute her audio. No, we've lost them.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll just carry on.
Hang on, they're back. They're back again. They're back again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, great.
Neil went to the toilet. I don't know how you do this. I'm just asking Artie, is he going to sing us On the Train to Glasgow? I love that one.
Not tonight, but I'll do it any other time.
All right.
I'll do it over the. I'll go do it over the garden fence for you one day.
Is that a euphemism for something else?
I'm going to move on, and
Right.
because what happened as a result of doing all these shows is that we had to start branding the shows differently so that audiences would know that the show was different every time. So we did a space show, a funfair show, a circus show, a zoo show, a medieval show, a desert island, a toy town, farmyard, pirates, a jungle, and as well as a different show every Christmas as well. And even the kettles began to get themed. And during the jungle show, we did this with a kettle. So we took off the lid and attached these two things to it. And then we managed to take off the spout and pop it on that way. And then we had a kettle fant. And the kettle fant's here to remind me of a couple of things I want to tell you. Firstly, that at one point we became very popular with Universal Studios. The people who make the films, and they came up to see us in Edinburgh. The managing director came up. We had long discussions over dinner with them, and they wrote to us on a letter arrived on Tuesday, making us an offer for the company. They wanted to buy the company. This is a bit like what you were talking about, Rob. They wanted to buy the company, and I'm not quite sure why we didn't take the offer, but we turned them down. I think mostly because they wanted Scilla and I to stay on as directors and me as managing director, which I think would have meant going down to London and reporting. But had we done it, I'm sure, like you were saying, Rob, it would have been syndicated and would have been a massive worldwide hit instead of being happy to be in Scotland. But we had family and we were quite happy to try and spend more time at home. In fact, the Kettle started because we had a wee boy, and we wanted to spend more time at home. It didn't work out because it was so successful. We actually saw less of him. He's forgiven us now, I think. Other things I wanted to tell you was that we played all over the country because of the success of the telly, and our Anna's. Are you back, Anna? Is she away?
Yeah, no, I think they're coming back, Artie. Yeah,
right.
They're coming back.
Anna's friend Elizabeth Partika, who worked at the BBC at first and then worked at STV, was a big fan. I was trying to get network telly from here. Tika was trying, and more effectively, I think, by organising focus groups to listen to our stuff. The kids liked it in London, and that meant she had an argument for it to be on national telly. And she got us 5 series, I think, with ITV. That meant we started touring in England, Liverpool Philharmonic, Birmingham Concert Hall, Newcastle City Hall, Nottingham Playhouse, the Phantom, under the Phantom of the Opera, what's that called? The Prince of Wales, I think it is, theatre in the West End, Sadler's Wells in the West End, and the London Palladium. We played all these places as a result of Tika, I suppose, friend of Anna's next door, promoting us. The other phone call that we got was from the King of Jordan's private secretary, asking us to go out and play at his daughter Princess Salma's birthday, which we took him up on, and we had a great time. We were puzzled about how we got there, and it became apparent immediately because the girl who was the nanny of Princess Salma was from South Queensferry. So she got us the gig. Scylla always talks about being introduced to Princess Salma's bodyguard, who was an impressive looking guy, very, very muscular, huge. He looked like a black American. You know, I don't know where he was from, but he just was so impressive looking guy, huge. He was carrying a gun in his holster, and he had the microphone on his lapel. And she had a short conversation with him, and said, "So, do you listen to the Singing Kettle?" He said, "Oh yes." And she said, "What's your favorite song?" And he said, "The Big Ship Sails Through the Ili Ali-O," which I thought was very strange. This big, muscular bodyguard singing "The Big Ship Sails Through the Ili Ali-O." He had been programmed because she sang it in the car on her way to.
Well, I have to confess, it's my favourite as well, and it's my daughter's favourite as well. Sandy had it on the loop in the car, and driving to, I think it was Arran at one point. I thought I was going to go mental because it just went over and over. And whilst it was absolutely great, you know, and I appreciate the artistic integrity with it all, it was over and over and over again. But my daughters do enjoy that song very, very much.
You will start to worry when you're singing it when they're not there, John.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
I'm gonna sort of start to wind down now. I want to just finish off using this kettle, which was prepared for me some time ago by a prop maker. I've never really used it very much. I just want to tell you that how much I enjoyed my career. It was absolutely fantastic. For a number of points of view. First of all, this lid tells you a wee bit about how much I got out of it. I just loved being the kind of silly man on stage. I really enjoyed that, and the clowning. I had such a great laugh doing working with other people on it and the working up routines. So much fun. But I've met a lot of children's entertainers, and a lot of them can't speak to people because they're so used to talking down to kids. A bit like sometimes nursery teachers have a great difficulty actually carrying on a conversation with adults. So luckily I had all the business aspect to take care of, and organizing and producing and directing all the shows. So in a way, I was also, can you see? It's not fitting on my headphones too well, but there you have, I'm Captain Kettle as well. So I got to be the silly sausage and the Captain Kettle as well. Just a few things that people ask me about. Have you had any rewards from doing the Kettle? Well, we got this. It's the Scottish Roads, no, it's not Scottish. It's the Prince Michael Road Safety Awards. They took us down to the Ritz in London and wined and dined us, and then Prince Michael came along and gave us a prize. We were up for the British Award, but understandably, we were third. It was won that year by the people who developed, I think it's called the GATSPO, which is the system for speed checking people, for busting people for speeding. They got the first prize. The second prize was won by a committee from Oxford who had organized a whole cycle network in the Oxfordshire. But we were third for doing a musical called The Busy Roadshow. So that was old Prince Michael of Kent gave us that. We got a BAFTA for our programs. This is the best children's TV program, Scottish BAFTA. It doesn't look like a BAFTA. It's not got the full sort of theatrical mask on it, but it's quite a nice trophy. It's got these are supposed to be bits of film, and then the lens in the middle. The Singing Kettle Best Children's TV Program. Guess when? 1991. A few years ago, we were inducted into the, what's it called? The Scottish Traditional Music Hall of Fame. So we've got that. Then in 1999, if I can find it, the first group since the Beatles.
Ah, yes. Yes, this is the big one.
The three of us got the MBE presented as a group. We were presented as a group, all met the Queen at the same time. And so the Kettle became the Singing Kettle MBE. There's the wee MBE floating on there.
First singing groups since the Beatles. So well done. Well done.
Thank you very much, John.
Massive congratulations on that, you know, and I think every single parent, kid, Scottish person would congratulate you on that. So we're going to have one last song here, Artie.
I'm going to finish up with one last song. Thank you very much, everybody. The show goes on, maybe after the Singing Kettle finished in 2013. Scylla and I finished it and it finished up in 2013. The Singing Kettle Company finished in 2015, but I continued doing a show called Tartan Tales, and now I've rebranded it as Artie's Singing Kettle because everybody just calls me Artie from the Singing Kettle. And my next show is locally here on the 18th of October at Cotier's. I don't know if we'll get to do that, but 18th of October, I'm hoping maybe we'll get something happening then.
Well, I'll move heaven and earth to do that.
Thanks very much. Put a word in with Nicola and see how we go. Listen, I'll finish up. Thank you very much. I hope you feel that this has been successful and worth coming to. I could rabbit on all night, but I will stop now. And just to say that people always ask me, one of the questions I usually get is, what's your favorite song? Not what your favorite ride on a fun fair would be. or roller coaster, I should say. But people ask me what the favourite song is, and I don't think I've got one, but I know the one I get asked for most, and it's this. First heard it from Robin Hall and Jimmy McGregor. And I thought it was bizarre then, and I still think it's a bit of a bizarre song. The people down south never quite got this, I feel, because they don't listen to it. It's "You Canny Shove Your Granny Off the Bus." Oh, you canny shove your granny off a bus. Oh, you canny shove your granny off a bus.
All unmuted.
Oh, you canny shove your granny, 'cause she's your mammy's mammy. You canny shove your granny off a bus. Push, push, singing. Aye, aye, yippee, aye.
All unmuted.
Singing, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, aye, aye, yippee, aye. Everybody wave to Granny. I go, hello, Granny. Hello, Granny. One more. Hello, Granny. Oh, well, we'll all go round to see her after school. Hello,
Hello,
Granny.
Granny.
We'll all go round to see her after school. Hello,
Hello,
Granny.
Granny.
We'll all go round to see her. We'll all go round to see her. We'll all go round to see her after school. Hello, Granny. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, aye, aye, yippee, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. I'm kind of delighted that that song has really gone into the folklore. There's a band called the La Fontaines, isn't it, here in Glasgow, and they sing, "Oh, I can't get my granny off the drugs. Oh, I can't get my granny off the drugs." So she's taking ease and jellies, then going out stealing tellies. I can't get my granny off the drugs. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. Singing, aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. Singing, aye, aye, yippee. My granny is a hippie. Aye, aye, yippee, yippee, aye. I like the line I like is, she fell in with my brother and they're dancing smack together. Oh, I can't get my granny off the drugs.
Oh.
Well,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
that's the question.
No, listen, Artie, thank you. I
Thank you.
think that was
That's the question.
Jackie's got a question, John.
Are you there?
yeah.
On you
Sorry,
go, Jackie.
I just wanted to ask how often.
Your camera on.
Hang on. I'm going to take some questions now because it sounds as though there are going to be some questions, which is, so Artie, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so who wants a, were you saying it's Jackie? Right, okay.
I just wanted to ask, Artie, I mean, how often do you get recognised by and approached by, well, adults like your age of my two, or are they still too shy? Because I remember the first time when you hadn't long moved here, and I was with Bridget when we were walking down Clouston Street, and you were out in the garden, and I just kind of said hello, and Bridget said, I think Bridget said hello, and she said afterwards to me, "Mum, I couldn't say anything, I was too starstruck." And I really just wondered,
Well,
people, I mean, she's 30, right? Do they come up
yes.
to you, or are they still a bit kind of starstruck?
I get recognised a lot, and mostly it's a really good experience. You know, people who are in the limelight at all tell you that it's not always a nice experience. I remember in the day, people would come up and in the restaurant, your meal has just arrived and you're about to get towed in, and they choose that moment to come and say, "Can I get an autograph?" Nowadays, it's very, very pleasant. And you know what I love, Jackie, is the number of people who have got into music and have got into theatre, and their first experience was our show. I was always aware of that. And I said, I used to say to people, don't slag off this audience. This audience are the future for this theatre. They're the future for our business. So, you know, do look after them. And I don't know if people probably thought I was an idiot and didn't listen, but I really take great pleasure when people come up and say exactly what I'm saying, that they found their way in music, they found their way in theatre because they came to our show.
Good stuff. Oh, hang on.
Anna, down the bottom.
Yep.
On you go, Anna.
Aye.
Hi, Anna.
Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, on you go.
So I'm just saying, Artie, Mary and Katie, as you know, when they were wee girls, I got them singing Kettle t-shirts, and Neil and I drove to the south of France. And I haven't watched your programme when they were kids, but we played your tapes. And by the time we got to the south of France, we knew every song on this tape. And when I told them that you and Scylla had moved next door, they couldn't believe it. And I said,
I remember being in France myself, and I was sitting on the wall in Dieppe, just having done a show called, I think it was called Seaside Special, and we wore shorts in the show on the stage. So, and it was very popular. A lot of people came, and I was sitting on this wall right next to where people were queuing to get onto the Dieppe ferry. And this woman opened, round down her window and said, "Is that you, Artie?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "It wasn't you I recognised, it was your legs."
All right.
I think the bottom line is, Artie, have you got any of the t-shirts left?
I've got a couple of kids ones, but we got rid of them all.
And I don't know if the rest of you know, one of the new neighbours, Fergus, at the bottom of the road, he told me yesterday he was a Kettle baby.
Big fan.
And he had 2 goldfish that he named Artie and Scylla.
Oh.